This guy is no stranger to the show. He always shows us some love, and I really appreciate my homeboy from the great state of Alabama. Muscle shows in particular, but he's that dude for ESPN Game Day, ESPN broadcast, games, football, basketball, and he's going to show some love today. Welcome back to the Sports Shop, ESPN's Rece Davis. Good morning, Rece. How you doing?
Right.
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Are we gonna argue about quarterbacks? And
Yeah.
None of you guys are going to say Drake May.
Well, no, Drake was my dude. Drake is my guy.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
if
All
I
right.
look at
I caught the
it,
end.
yeah, if I look at it in totality, though, I think some reason Jalen Daniels kind of leaning into the fact I think he's going to be special, and he's going to be of the three: Caleb Williams, Drake, and Jalen. I think he may be the C.J. Stroud of this draft. Your thoughts are, Rece, since you brought it up.
Well, you know what? I sort of not really the hot take sports radio thing. I like all three of them. And
Okay.
I'll be honest and say that I thought Jaden was fine until this year, and then I decided, no, I'm wrong. I've underestimated him. He's fantastic. But, you know, I think the one thing about all three of them that you sort of learn, if you're not an absolute transcendent talent, you know, John Elway, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, you know, if you're not that, you've got to be in the right spot. And I'm not sure. I actually think that Drake and Caleb physically and as prospects potentially are close to being that, but I'm not sure they are. So you've got to be in the right spot. And look, I think Justin Fields has a chance to be a terrific quarterback in the NFL. And it just hasn't, you know, they haven't done everything just right with him yet. So it's a tricky thing, but I like all three of them. I really do.
Well, this morning we have Rece Davis on joining us from College Game Day, and we're talking quarterbacks, and I just as a Commanders fan, everybody keeps talking about it, and I've always said I wanted Daniels, but the one reason I didn't want Drake May, this will be like the third time we've seen this experiment coming from quarterbacks from Carolina. And I just don't want to. I don't want to be a part of it, Rece. I'm sorry.
You're not superstitious about it. Just a little stitious. You just want to be
Just a little
Right. I mean, if you order the steak 3 times in a row and it never comes out right, maybe don't order the steak. That's all I'm
Good
saying.
point.
That's all I'm saying, Rece.
I think Drake's special, though, man. I
I do too,
completely
man.
agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's just that we're not the home for him.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But Rece, man, I'm telling you, you guys are gonna be in town. You're gonna be in town this weekend. You just coming by to hang out with us, or is something special you're gonna be doing?
I think we got a game that might carry some significance. Duke and North Carolina. You know, it's the thing that surprised me because I started thinking back, and I had our researcher dig through it, and I'm sure it's been out there a lot by now. This is the first time since 2012 that the ACC championship was at stake in the game, and these two teams were the last two standing. That there was no, well, they need Virginia to lose, or Miami can get a share, or or none of that. That both of them were involved. Certainly, there have been times when one of them had to win and could win it. But, you know, this situation where Carolina can win it outright or Duke can get a share, we haven't had that situation as often as you would expect, given how great both of these teams and programs have been.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Awesome. We are talking to ESPN College Game Day, Rece Davis, the Tobacco Road this weekend. So what is your most memorable Duke-Carolina game and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I've been fortunate to see so many of them over the years. But, I have to say, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Duke fans by any stretch of the imagination.
That's okay. That's okay with me. Go ahead.
I know it is. My son played baseball at Duke, so I've got great affinity for it.
So you get
it. I think it has to be. I think it has to be Coach K's final game there. There was just so much around it, and then for Carolina to answer and provide one of the moments in sports that you have in rivalry that is like an ultimate trump card. I remember I asked R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot when we were at Chapel Hill earlier this year.
Yeah.
Which win do you cherish more? The one in Cameron or the one in the Final Four? And they I mean, obviously they loved them both in the Final Four, gave them a chance to win a national title. But meaningful, emotional, it was the win in Cameron. Mm-hmm. And I think when you see moments like that, I mean, there have been so many great moments for both teams where the last second shots, and Duke's hit a bunch of them. But I think that's probably the game and the moment that stands out more than any other.
Yeah. Wow. That's my moment. That's number one. Number two is Final Four 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say, Rece, we've probably been at. I've been with the other Rece over here. I've been to quite a few, and I never have to stop hearing about that moment in Carolina. I can guarantee you that. I hear about it at least once a week from one of these two.
We're talking to Rece Davis. Of course, ESPN College Game Day. So, obviously, you guys do this in many places, and I think you was in Chapel Hill earlier with Game Day. Now you're over in Cameron. Just talk about some things that some of the fans can expect to see when they come out and check you guys out for College Game Day.
I mean, we'll have plenty of visits with players and coaches from both teams. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of sound. We'll have the half-court shot that we have. We'll preview the whole day, but there will be a heavy Duke Carolina flavor to it because we know our audience. Yes. As Bill says, it always delivers, and the ratings for that game are always the highest of the season. So there will be it'll be a lot of tournament talk, seeding talk, stealing for both teams. Which Carolina played great the other night, but I don't know that they've really played to the best of their ability in the last couple of weeks, maybe. Yep. And Duke, on the other hand, pretty much has. I feel like Duke is on the rise. Yeah. So I think both of these teams. I actually think we're going to see the game again, not only Saturday night, probably a week from Saturday night, the ACC championship tournament championship game. And both teams have bright futures in front of them in March. So we'll talk a lot about the tournament and break down Duke Carolina game, Houston and Kansas play this weekend. Yes, so there'll be a lot of hoops talk, and I'm sure we'll find a way to have some fun and engage the crowd. And Jay Williams has this thing going where before the show, so get there early. That he's been pulling people out of the stands, and you can knock down a three. He pulls a $100 bill out of his pocket, which is surprising that Jay Will has a $100 bill in his pocket, but because he never reaches for it at a restaurant. I can guarantee you that. Good. But he'll pull it out and give you $100 if you make it free.
Oh, that's great stuff there, man.
that I can agree with. We're talking with Rece Davis from College Game Day. They're going to be here covering the big backyard rivalry this weekend. But Rece, for me, I have to ask you this one question. It's just a quick comment on Coach Saban's retirement. Oh, yeah. And were you as surprised as the rest of us? And did you see any of this coming?
You know what? To be honest, I thought it might happen last year, and I've kept this very quiet. I guess since he's made a decision, it's okay now. But I'm not trying to paint myself as being in his inner circle or anything like that. But we're very friendly, and when he was out helping us with the coverage of the national championship game in California last year, the Georgia TCU game, we talked quite a bit about what it might look like if he decided to go on television. And I thought he was really considering it. Then he didn't do it. And they had a really good team built the season, and I thought they were a year away and probably in position, and especially had everyone stayed to be better this upcoming season. So after he didn't do it last year, and there have been a few other occasions over the last few years where he kind of toyed with it and talked about it, I thought, well, he's just not going to do it. He's not ever going to do it. Right. And then got the word, and then some people reached out and said, hey, why don't you come over here and do the interview? He'd rather do that than the press conference, and at that time, and so I did. And it was. It was pretty fascinating interview and pretty.
It was good too, by the way. Great interview.
Yeah. Thank you. But the moment that really hammered it home that wow, this is real. As I walked back before we were going to do the interview, I walked back in the football building to his office, and he was in the conference room beside his office. And as I walked into his office, it was virtually empty already. Now remember, this was was like 12 hours after he had announced to the team that he was going. So, I mean, once they did it, it got into motion and took off. But to answer your question, and I should have been more brief, I was surprised because when he hadn't done it, last year and really a few years prior to that, I thought he's just. I understand he's toying with it and he'd be great on television, but I just didn't know that he could bring himself to do it. And I think what he said was he had the two speeches in front of him that he was looking over 5 minutes before the meeting. The one, was sort of the routine. Here's what the offseason is going to look like.
Right.
And the other one's like, I'm stepping down. Wow. I thought that was pretty telling too. And I did, to be clear, I don't think he was vacillating. I think he had sort of come to a point where
Decided,
he thought it was the thing to do, but I think he was holding out. He sort of had that safety net of, what if I step in front of the team and think, I just can't do this? Then I'm going to go with the off-season plan.
I mean, 30-something years, man. It's 40, really, but man, that's whew.
Special
that's a special run.
Go ahead, Pam.
That's very special. Speaking of special, we are talking to ESPN and ESPN College Game Day, Rece Davis. I have a question, and your journey has been very inspiring. And one of the things that you talked about from an interview was a quote that I thought was very powerful. If you want to pursue something that's out of reach, try it. So tell us what that quote means to you and why.
Well, I think that was probably from the podcast I did with my friend Justin Stuckey, who's going to come and take somebody's job, probably mine, but hopefully not for a while. He's really a really talented a young broadcaster. He's also a 3-time All-American track guy who started at Stanford. He is now at Auburn. It's a great kid. But we were talking about pursuing goals. And what it means to me, I think, is my parents didn't go to college. My dad was a machinist. My mom mostly stayed at home, but she would occasionally, she worked in a drugstore for a long time and took jobs like that, to give us what we needed.
Yeah.
And, they didn't have the background of saying, hey, here's how to pursue this. They were very smart, but they didn't know how television worked. As far as getting into the industry. But my mom especially was always like, if you want to do it, go for it. Yeah. You don't know if you don't try. And my dad was always kind of the same way. He was like, you got to work hard. And, if you think you can do it, well, you can do it. And awesome. So I think that's the biggest thing to me. There's no shame in not achieving a goal. The only thing that will leave you disappointed is if you don't attempt it.
That is right there.
There it is.
That is right. Hey, the best in the business, in my opinion. My man, Rece Davis. I always consult with him on my wardrobe. The shoes and hey, I'm gonna see you Saturday night. So I'll be checking you out and see what you're gonna have on.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
Well, now I've got to step it up a little bit. I can guarantee you one thing I won't do, and I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
And I don't know how you guys feel about it. You may disagree with me, but I don't know why these people keep wearing tennis shoes with suits. Billis and Seth Greenberg. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, it makes you look like you're ready for the retirement home. You've got to be like, built like my great friend and former colleague LaFonso Ellis, and even LaFonso didn't do it. Now, if you're 6'8", former NBA power forward, you want to put on some Jordans or something with your suit. Go ahead. The rest of us need to wear adult shoes.
But trust me.
Right.
Hey, Rece, they got bad feet. That's why they do
it. Okay, all right.
But you
pass on that.
You wear the real adult shoes. My friend, looking forward to seeing you in a couple of days, man. Be safe.
Right,
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.